Good morning. Welcome back to the Quarantine Bakery here with Paul Brooks on a very special Sunday morning. This Sunday morning happens to be Mother's Day, and while I was just preparing, getting my laundry ready to go and head out to the laundry room, I was thinking a lot of my mother this morning, of course, as well as my grandmother, and of course I will call them later today and wish them a happy Mother's Day. But I got to thinking that how interesting that it's both my grandmother and my mother who I think their favorite meal of the day is not dinner, it's not lunch, it's not breakfast, it's brunch. They both enjoy brunch more than anything. And if I was home right now with mom and grandma, we'd probably be taking them out to brunch today. So I thought maybe until I get a little later in the morning and they're back from their church service, perhaps I would make some brunch for myself in order to honor them today. So today I happen to be looking through newspaper. I can't remember, was this early this morning or late last night, looking at the cooking section of recipe, and saw something that was really interesting to me and something I've never quite made before. So I thought I would celebrate Mother's Day and decide to try something new. Today I'm going to try a Dutch-Baby Pancake. Again, this is a pancake that's almost a hybrid between a souffle, which you've seen me make here before on this program, and a pancake. So it kind of strikes that balance between sweet and savory, just where both my mom and grandma seem to like for their brunch. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity, and I thought I'd share that with you this morning. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Again, this recipe is pretty simple, especially if you have a little bit of heavy equipment. You can turn this recipe and make it work quite well. So looking here at my recipe, I'm going to need 3 eggs, 1/2 cup flour, 1/2 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of sugar, a pinch of nutmeg, and 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now I want to make sure the milk, the eggs, and the butter are all brought up to room temperature. However, I just decided I was going to make this, maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. So I used my nice little cheat to bring my dairy ingredients up to temperature. And it happens to be something I learned, well, maybe a takeaway from thermodynamics class. And that is increased convection enhances heat, mass, and momentum transfer. And what better way to use convection rather than using a microwave or leaving them out for a couple hours to come to temperature? I just take a small fan that I use in my bedroom, clean it off, make sure it's all dust-free, and you just set the couple things on here that I want to bring up to temperature, like my eggs, and wrap my little bit of butter in some plastic wrap so it doesn't get all over the place. Set on top of there, and voila, in only 10, 15 minutes, you go from refrigerated temperature ingredients up to room temperature. And yes, Professor Anderson, I still remember my convection coefficients. My professor for heat transfer back in the university used to always quiz us constantly on what are your heat transfer coefficients for the different phases of heat transfer. And yes, I still remember them. 5 to 6 watts per meter squared degree Kelvin for free natural convection, about 50 to 60 for free convection, and 100 to 80 for Justin Underwood with his leaf blower. Yeah, my professor always used to make the joke about one of the students in our class for forced convection using a leaf blower, saying that was about what we would think about that. So 180 for that. So this, you get about 50 to 60, which significantly lowers the time for coming up to room temperature. But anyway, excuse the little engineering nerdy moment there. But let's get started. So as I said, I'm just going to make this really simple on myself and use a blender. So here, I'm just going to add all my ingredients in here. Again, we're going to start with 3 eggs. Okay, then we'll add half a cup of milk. We'll add half a cup of flour. Again, this is regular this is regular all-purpose flour. Getting a little tongue-tied here in the morning. And 1 tablespoon of sugar. And just a pinch of ground nutmeg. Place that here in my blender, put on the lid, and we're just going to use the blender to mix this together really well. You know, maybe low, medium, low speed. All right, blender makes short work of that. And if you don't have a blender or if you didn't want to pull it out, you could always do this by hand, either with a hand whisk or with an electric hand mixer. But I figure I'm going to be using my blender later this morning to make my fruit juice or smoothie for the week. So why not get it out? So I'll just pour this out into my measuring cup and scrape down the sides of my blender with my spatula. Now, just like when you're, if you've ever made a clep batter for making French clep, it's always nice to, when you do this, let your egg mixture set for maybe 15, 20 minutes. That allows the air bubbles to dissipate and helps it stay together much more. So I'm just going to let this sit out for about 20 minutes or so. And while I wait, make sure to go ahead and preheat your oven. So I have my oven set at 425 degrees. I've also placed in the oven to preheat a heavy bottom skillet. Again, this happens to be a cast iron skillet, but any oven-safe skillet would be appropriate. Just put that in there to go ahead and preheat along with the oven. So we just need to now wait for everything to come to temperature and our batter to settle out again. So I'll see you back here in about 15 or 20 minutes. All right, welcome back. It's been about 20 minutes, and in that time, our little batter for our pancake has definitely settled out. The air's come up to the top, so that looks pretty nice. The oven's been preheating with the skillet in it at 425 degrees, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on my fan. Pull out that skillet, and remember, this skillet is very hot at 425 degrees. A good reminder, when you have a hot pan out on the stove, perhaps cover the handle with a towel to remind you that not to grab that directly or to grab it with a hot pad. You don't want to burn your hand. So while this skillet is hot, I'm going to now add 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And this is going to melt quite rapidly in that hot skillet. Let's swirl that around. Again, we want to make sure we melt it, but do not burn it. And now to this, I'm just going to pour my entire batter that we prepared earlier. Add this right to the pan. And the pan needs to be hot, otherwise it's not going to cause the puffing up, that souffle action that we're looking for. And then as soon as we can, right back into the oven. And we're going to let this go at 425 degrees for about 20 minutes. And then, let's see. Then we're going to lower the oven temperature down to about 300 degrees, and bake for another 5 minutes just so we finish it off cooking. So I'm going to move the camera down in front of the oven so you can hopefully watch this puff up a little bit, and I'll see you back here in 25 minutes. All right, that's time, and I hope you enjoyed watching that in the oven. I think that was kind of spectacular to see. But let's turn the oven on, and let's pull out and see our final result. So remember, please use a hot pad when handling the pan because that is quite hot. But as you can see, that pancake has puffed up nicely, revealed a little hole in the center. Again, if I have a hot pan on the oven, I like to put a dish towel over the handle just so I don't by accident reach out and grab it. I heard my toaster just go off. I have a little bit of toast preparing to have with this. But I think let's try to find a spatula and see if we can help this out. It should come out of the pan quite easily. Given all the butter in there and the crust that we formed, there we are, and I'll bring it right over to the camera. We can see that's turned out nice and golden brown. Maybe the edges got up here got a little bit dark, but in general, that looks fantastic. But just like with souffles or something like that, you want to enjoy this while it's warm. So I'm actually going to grab out my cutting board and transfer this to a cutting board so I can slice it into a portion for myself. And definitely, you see this cavity here, it's definitely an opportunity to fill that cavity with something, I don't know, maybe some fruit, something like that. But again, this will start to deflate quite rapidly. And if you load it with a lot of things that are very high water content, like fruit, it might start to get soggy. But you can see it's puffed up quite a bit, but on the edges, it's still very thin. But I think that's fine. And kind of amazing to me that this is only, remember, 3 eggs, a half a cup of flour, half a cup of milk, and some butter. So definitely an opportunity to pair it with something else. So I have a little jam here, and as you heard the timer, a little bit of toast. So I think I'll just spread a little bit of jam here on a piece of toast. And then maybe to dress up the little Dutch-Baby souffle there, maybe I'll go for a little bit of powdered sugar and put that in a little sieve and give it a little tap. And of course, if you were so inclined, you know, depends on what you're having it with or who you're having it with, this might also pair really nicely with some plain old maple syrup. So I'm just, for myself, I think just a touch there is all I want. And boy, does that look scrumptious. So as I've said, my first attempt at this, so let's give a taste and see how we did. I guess what's surprising to me is how light this pancake or souffle hybrid is. And it definitely straddles that place in between a pancake, which can be sometimes kind of dense and pretty heavy, and a souffle, which is so light, so airy, puffs up so much. Straddle's a good medium in between. I like the level of sweetness there, just a touch of sweetness from the sugar we added. And the jam on top goes quite nicely together with that. So I think that's a good addition. Just a little piece of toast to go with some jam. Very crisp, delightful, a great combination together, which I definitely think you could customize in many different ways. Maybe you leave off the syrup, maybe it's just the jam, maybe it's the powdered sugar, maybe you put, I don't know, something else. Maybe serve this with a breakfast potato hash or something like that would make a great dish for a brunch or a breakfast, something to that effect. So I think a great first attempt, and I'm so pleased with the way it turned out. Well, that's about all that I have for today. I thank you so much for joining me here in the quarantine kitchen this morning. Before we go, I guess like to wish my mother and my grandmother a happy Mother's Day, and maybe have a quick little toast of some fresh squeezed orange juice. And rather than champagne, because I don't have any of that at the moment, but maybe some sparkling seltzer water there. But here to propose a toast to Mom and Grandma. Wish you a very happy Mother's Day, and also to all the other mothers out there, particularly over this last year. I know it's been difficult for many moms and families trying to keep the family together, as well as maintain the integrity of your traditions. And so today I'd like to offer a toast to celebrate all mothers in all forms, wherever they may be, especially to my cousin who just welcomed in a new member of the family in the last few weeks. So probably a very special Mother's Day to her as well. So thank you so much for joining me here in the Quarantine Bakery or Quarantine Kitchen, as the case may be today. Again, this is Paul Brooks wishing you to please stay safe, please stay healthy, please take care of your family, and I hope to see you next time right here in the Quarantine Kitchen. And don't forget to call your mom today. See you next time.